My name is Paul Valone. Back in 1994, two other guys and I founded an organization called Grassroots North Carolina, the state's main gun rights organization. We've pretty much been kicking tail and taking names since. Now, I have said for many years that we are only one election away from losing our republic. And in the 2020 elections and beyond, the left has tried to prove me right. If we lose the 2022 elections, we will lose this republic. Let there be no doubt. And so, if anybody here has had the misfortune to have me accost them during this weekend, they know that I'm all about winning. Winning the election, winning against the left, preserving our republic. And earlier, Dan Wass did an excellent presentation on what winning looks like. What I'm here to talk about is what winning requires. Now, many of you are gun rights leaders in your states. You are either the leader of an organization or a member of the leadership network. I won't ask for a call of hands, but I will say this. If your organization is not running a political action committee, you are not doing your people any favors. Winning requires a multi-part effort, and I'm all about empowering people. Last night somebody told me that years back, and frankly I didn't even remember this, but years back he said, I got him started in the gun rights movement and founding an organization. And I found that tremendously encouraging, because if we need to do anything, it's to empower people to take back our republic. So our election effort kind of looks like this. And if you guys want advice, take a card. I'll be happy to help you. We actually do a project that involves using 501c4 money for what we call voter education. The project is called Remember in November. And we evaluate objectively all candidates for state and federal office across the state of North Carolina on their voting record on gun issues, on their survey scores, bill sponsorship record, and another measure for leadership we call bill support. All of this gets plugged into a spreadsheet which estimates the percentage of times a given candidate can be expected to agree with a control group of our own life and benefactor members. If a candidate agrees at least 90% of the time, they get 4 stars, 80% 3 stars, on down the list. All of this gets formatted into a voter guide. The voter guide starts out by 11 by 17 and folds down to a brochure that they can take into the polls with them. I just printed out, not personally, I had printed out 150,000 of those voter guides. We mailed 120,000 of those voter guides directly to gun-owning voters that we did some fairly sophisticated data mining to find out who those voters are. We're about to start a new project. And by the way, of that 120,000, I suspect most will probably end up going to the polls. And that's what winning looks like and what it requires. Now, of course, that's our C4 effort. The other part of our effort, we have run not one, but 2 political action committees. One is a conventional federal PAC, and one is a super PAC. The super PAC may actually take out candidates on issues other than guns, because as I often tell people, the problem is what you need to solve. The issue is how you frame the debate to solve the problem. You frame the issue to maximize your core constituency of support. So the issue on which we attack a candidate might not even be guns, using our super PAC. But the political action committees will now go and do, and if gun organizations typically have a failing, they do good legislative action. They are not as good at election action. And the reality is, your election action is what puts teeth into your legislative action. Because unless you are politically feared, you will not be politically respected. And so they have to know, politicians need to know, that in the election season, you will hold them responsible for what they do in the legislative season. And that's what the Political Action Committee is for. The other mistake gun rights organizations often make is that when they do decide to do election action, they throw money at a few candidates and call it a day. That has two problems. First, you're not going to change their behavior. But perhaps almost as important, they may re-gift that money to other candidates you don't like so much. And so what we do instead are independent expenditures. And actually, I wrote the book recently, The Rules for Anti-Radicals, a practical handbook for defeating leftism. Some of you may have gotten that book. What I do is I teach people how to form political action committees, how to do independent expenditures, and how to frankly go out and kick ass. And by doing independent expenditures, we do mailings, radio spots, social media advertising. I hate to say it, but I'm one of those guys that makes those nasty old robocalls, all right? And automated texts and a variety of other means. All of which are intended to elect the people who will support our rights. And if you aren't doing that, again, you're not doing anybody any favors here. This, I actually we went from North Carolina to Georgia, and we actually sent teams down to work the runoff elections in the Senate. And an organization I will not name told me that they don't do politics. They're nonpartisan. This is a gun rights organization. And my comment to them was, well, that's your choice, of course. But if you don't do politics, I can assure you that politics will do you, all right? So my point, and I'm not going to belabor it, is that you need to be active in this election. It's late, but it's not too late. If you don't have a PAC, form a PAC. If you're not doing independent expenditures for or against candidates, do it now. You got 5 weeks to the election, and if we don't win this election, we have a serious problem on our hands. Thank you very much.